From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
A pair of Montana brothers charged in the U.S. Capitol riots are going to walk free, at least for a while. What's happening with Helena's Hughes brothers? That story just ahead.
And businesses in Butte could be getting a refund of their city business license fees this year. When it might happen and how it would be funded, also coming up this morning.
New research reveals the impact of COVID. I'm Ian Lee with how scientists say the virus can affect your brain.
Well, look at that lovely shot. The sun coming up over southwest Montana. It is 6:30 for you on your Thursday. Holly Brantley, Chet Lehman, Matt Elwell here, and we are looking forward to an interesting weather day, huh, Matt?
It's always interesting.
I know,
right?
it is.
I don't know. Yes, it will be interesting. We are talking rain showers, we're talking snow showers, and unfortunately we're talking wind and probably falling temperatures.
I mean, that's what I mean,
Yeah,
all
no,
the things.
Right? We got it. We got all the things.
All meteorology.
Yeah, that's right. Into the 30s this morning. It's actually very comfortable across most of the area for the early part of the day. Scattered showers trying to work their way into the area. I think our better potential of seeing showers coming later in the day in Bozeman from noon on, probably before noon in the Butte areas, watching that moisture try to work its way back through here. Temperatures may spike late in the afternoon, but fall quickly into the evening as that cooler air rushes in. We'll talk more about what you can expect heading into the weekend. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. Well, the two East Helena brothers charged in connection with the January 6th riots at the Capitol are getting out of jail.
Yeah, Joshua and Jared Hughes have been granted pre-trial release on their own recognizance. According to federal court records, they will be released into the high-intensity supervision program. Prosecutors say the Hughes brothers were among the first 10 rioters to enter the Capitol at that part of the building, took part in a confrontation with Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman, and then went through desks on the Senate floor. Both men are pleading not guilty to all those charges.
Well, Butte is starting to see a slowdown in people getting vaccinated at its largest clinic. Yesterday's COVID-19 vaccination clinic at the Butte Civic Center had 1,100 doses available, but only 700 people signed up for the clinic. Health officials started taking in walk-ins without appointments to administer the remaining doses.
We're starting to get a certain age group that might not be really conducive to getting the shot, maybe. And again, I think the biggest thing was we had 2 vaccination clinics, first clinics, in a week, so that might have made a difference too.
The next clinic will be Wednesday, April 14th from noon to 6 o'clock in the evening. Staying
in the mining city, Butte Silver Bowl businesses may be receiving a license fee refund because of the hardships created by the pandemic. MTN's Caitlin Augulus finds out what needs to happen.
Businesses in Butte Silver Bowl might be getting a refund of their local licensing fees if approved by the Council of Commissioners.
Because it has to do with the economics of Butte Silver Bowl, and the commissioners have that right to approve or disapprove whether we give this refund or not.
The issue was first discussed when the Silver Bow Tavern Association requested a refund, and the Council of Commissioners cited that it was unfair that some businesses would get a refund while others didn't, and denied the request. The proposed refund will be extended to all businesses, and Gallagher wants to use COVID relief funds to cover costs instead of using taxpayer money for the refund to businesses.
I feel pretty positive on the support that we have with commissioners that this is something that we can offer to the local businesses.
When Silver Bow Tavern Association President Thomas Davis Jr. heard about the possibility of receiving refunds, he was astonished.
It's invigorating to see that they're taking that in consideration, and also, highlighting the fact that, we have been impacted.
In Butte, Caitlin Aguilez, MTN News.
Yesterday, we told you about some new research into the psychological impact of the coronavirus.
Yeah, scientists in England found people diagnosed with COVID-19 are at a greater risk of developing a range of psychological and neurological conditions. This morning, CBS's Ian Lee in London has additional details about what is being learned.
Discover things, it's allowed me to see things that I otherwise wouldn't have seen.
Ivan Agerton has his dream job, traveling the world as an adventure photographer. But when he returned from his latest assignment, he was diagnosed with COVID.
Because my symptoms were so mild, I wasn't overly concerned.
The father of 3 thought he recovered, But within days, his world turned upside down.
It instantly, like a light switch, I felt this intense paranoia hit me. I couldn't escape it. It kept every single person that I saw would trigger this intense fear.
And how bad did it get?
As I was hearing voices outside the window, I thought I heard people in the bushes.
Doctors eventually linked his condition to COVID. He's not alone. Researchers at Oxford University found 1 in 3 COVID patients in the U.S. developed brain or psychiatric disorders within 6 months of being infected.
As we compared those percentages with people who've been ill with a range of other conditions during the pandemic era.
Dr. Harrison's team found COVID patients were treated more often for a range of disorders, from common ones like anxiety and depression to rare conditions like dementia and psychosis. They hope future studies will reveal why.
Is this, for example, a direct effect of the virus getting into the brain and damaging the brain? Is it inflammation in the brain?
It was absolutely the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Months later, Agerton says he's vaccinated and feeling better.
It is under control right now to an extent.
He hopes sharing his story will give others courage to ask for help. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Wow, now scientists also found the sicker people became from COVID, the more likely they were to develop mental health complications. That study is published in the Lancet Psychiatry Journal.
Treasure State headlines now. The lack of affordable housing is a problem affecting more and more communities all across Montana, and the problem is not escaping the attention of the state legislator.
Now, in the second of our two-part series on the issue, MTN's Mike Dennison tells us how majority Republicans believe a big part of the solution is easing restrictive zoning and subdivision laws.
As housing costs escalate across Montana, in cities big and small, just about everyone agrees on one point. There's a severe shortage of available homes and apartments. For Republicans at the legislature, that means looking for ways to accelerate the supply, including at least a half dozen bills to restrict or roll back zoning or other local rules for builders and land developers.
I think we're getting a little bit overreach on a lot of those different zones. Zoning was set up to promote safety, health, and public welfare. Now it's kind of being used to basically separate people at times by economic status.
Senator Hurt sponsored a bill to restrict local zoning on accessory dwelling units, which are apartments within homes or smaller units on lots that already have homes. But that bill, strongly opposed by cities, died last week. Yet he also has a bill to narrow the scope of local review for housing subdivisions. GOP lawmakers are advancing other proposals as well. One would stop Missoula from requiring developers to set aside some agricultural soil. Another would allow more sewage content and groundwater for some housing, and another says counties cannot require minimum lot sizes in certain subdivisions. The former head of the Montana Association of Planners agrees that zoning and land use laws could be more flexible to allow different types of housing, but he questions whether these changes will lead to a building boom or more affordable homes.
Housing is such a challenging, very complicated issue, and there are so many factors that go into it beyond local government policy and regulation. I don't think the reforms that we're seeing will do much to increase the supply of housing.
An attorney for a leading environmental group, which opposes the bills, says they're primarily to benefit builders, not those looking for affordable homes.
What they're trying to do is make it easier for developers to put up houses as fast as possible. There's no guarantee that they're going to pass any cost savings on to consumers.
Yet there is one bill supported by developers, realtors, local governments, and planners to streamline the review of certain subdivisions.
Hey, if you've done the growth policy, you've got zoning in place, you have sewer, water, you say this is where you want to grow, we're going to speed that process up for you.
The current legislature also likely won't be the end of this discussion. Senator Hurt says lawmakers may study local housing rules over the next 18 months and come back with a proposed overhaul in 2 years. Many of these bills are likely to pass and become law, perhaps giving us a mini preview of what comes next. In the meantime, however, it doesn't look like housing prices are getting any cheaper. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
I think that's the one thing that we can say is that they're not going to get any cheaper.
No,
that's not going to
they're
change.
not.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Wow. It's a struggle for a lot of people.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, coming up here, has the pandemic made you a better driver, or has it eroded your skills? A new report says there's a clear answer to that question. Well, what it shows, that story's coming up.
Meantime, here's Gail King with a look at what's coming up at 7 o'clock on CBS This Morning.
Good morning to you. Ahead on CBS This Morning, we have the latest on President Biden's executive actions on gun control. Plus, American cruise lines are pushing to resume voyages. First on CBS This Morning, Royal Caribbean CEO tells us how his company is preparing to make its ships COVID safe before they start sailing again in the United States. That would be a good thing. Also, the Masters teeing off today in Augusta amid backlash over Georgia's new voting law. Hear why some critics of the law do not support calls to boycott the state. And we'll introduce you to the Grammy-nominated duo, breaking all the stereotypes and inspiring students to rethink what's possible in classical music. Classical music makes everything better. See, you feel calm already. See you at 7 o'clock on the dot.